a defining moment for this country. The threshold of this defining moment can never be any louder than it is right now. The August elections are looming. Manifestos are being unveiled. Messages of persuasion are on politicians' lips. We get to look at that context of this conversation, and to be specific, we look at, first of all, the Tonse Alliance that over the weekend launched its manifesto, and we get to look at what is contained in that manifesto. But mainly today, we get to look at a video that has, taken to our screens, where President Hakainde Hichilema is speaking directly to you, the Zambian people. His message is consistent. Trust the process. But trust is a heavy word when the cost of living is pulling at the pockets of every household in this country. It is a heavy word when the 10-point plan of 2021 meets the reality of 2026. Today, we ask the hard questions. Is the process working? Or is the process simply taking too long? Joining me to dissect the weight of these promises is our resident analyst, Mr. George Chomba. Mr. Chomba, good afternoon and welcome to Conversations of One. Great to be with you after a very long time.
A very long time.
Yeah.
I trust your process.
Goodness
You
me.
promised you would come.
And here we are.
And here we are.
All right. Last week was an eventful week. Mike Sakala, Mr. Kokwa Kozi, as well as Alfred Chimba were with you on Conversations at One, with yours truly, Mr. George Chomba. I joined the team this week, and I hope that we have more conversations together. And like we said, we're looking at the promise question. Let's have a look at this video by President Hakainde Hichilema. I'm sure you've seen it. If you have not, see it for the first time today on Crown TV. Then on the other side, we get deep into this conversation. That's the message that we get to look at this afternoon on Conversations at One. The lines are going to be opening a little later. We're also going to look at some of the stories that are making headlines in our daily tabloids today. And to start off the conversation, Mr. Chomba, politicians at this moment are beginning to release manifestos. And when we look at the contents of the manifestos, we also get to look at the reality on the ground. Do these booklets, by any chance sway the voter to say this is the right person because they have a booklet that has information about what they're saying they're going to do? Or is it more of the reality of things that are on the ground?
In Zambia, over the years, I think we have depended on the sweet things, what politicians will talk about, rather than what is reality on the ground. A manifesto is a social contract where a political party would say, give me power and this is what I'm going to do. I'm reminded of the MMD when they were aspiring to enter government. And Dr. Chiluba would say, are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
At that time, when they entered government, it was an easy thing to explain in terms of, you remember when I was campaigning, I said, are you willing to sacrifice? So it's good that politicians at this particular moment are releasing their manifestos. We should pay a tribute to Tonse Alliance. We hope we will analyze, not hoping to analyze what they have placed in their document. But even their presidential candidate, Mr. Munduwile, did talk about it. But as we start maybe analyzing the manifestos and the promises, it is good that there has been a political party in power, which is the UPND, and we are just watching a video where he's talking about trusting the process and that we are not where we were in 2021. So for the UPND, that's why maybe last week I did talk about when they had their general conference, what are the various chairmen of committees talk about when they were exiting in terms of the chairman for economics. I would have loved that the UPND talk about the economy as they address their members and through them the nation, because they're a ruling party. What is the chairman for agriculture doing? What is various positions?
Especially the energy,
energy sector. Yes, the energy sector. What is it that they are doing in terms of we are not like we were in 2021. So it's very important that there is a review for a ruling party in terms of what they promised. The president, that is the UPND president and the Republican president, has talked about we have restored free education. Now, this is not just a topic which should be talked about by just the president. It's supposed to be even the chairman for education coming out in terms of explaining, even the minister of education coming out, the achievement in the education sector. This is what we have done. Because most of the times when people talk about free education, they have forgotten that they were paying. Some of them criticize that it's not quality education. But the Minister of Education, the chairman of the UPND, is simply supposed to come out and say, oh, we were not the way we were in 2021, and this is what we intend to do in this sector. Then you'll be fulfilling your manifesto as you discuss with the people, as you talk about to students. I know in terms of free education, a grade 1 cannot vote, a grade 7 cannot vote. But obviously, when parents are explained to about their manifesto, they are able to understand maybe what is going on.
When you look at 4 years ago, the UPND came to the scene with a specific 10-point plan.
Yeah.
And now, when we today look at the original list, from stabilizing the kwacha, that's one of the things that were on the 10-point plan, to job creation. What is the honest scorecard? I know they say they have achieved more than 90% of what was on their 10-point plan. But have they delivered enough to justify, a second trust mandate by the Zambian people?
From my point of view, and as a person who has been in the media, I think the UPND haven't danced to their song the way people would want to dance. They could have done much better in terms of explaining in terms of job creation. There were more than 100,000 people on the waiting list if they have employed about 40,000 teachers.
And today the Minister of Education
was announcing. You see, what I've seen the UPND as behaving is we have done it, but we can't talk about it. And only the president issues a video talking about we have restored free education and all those things. If you are looking at UNIP and the way the MMD behaved over their programs, what is supposed to happen, or what was happening at that particular time, was an involvement of the lower members. If we look at the school feeding program, it's like it's a program in the vacuum. The people in the districts don't want to talk about it. It can only be discussed here in Lusaka. You can only measure the success of the program if the grassroots is involved. Look at the free education. It would have been nice if the UPND members are also shining in terms of this child wasn't in school, but now this person has gone back. It would have been nice for people. The last 5 years, there were people who completed the education in terms of grade 12. Some of them, they have undergone the bursaries. Surely, is there nobody willing to come out and say, with this program, this is what I've achieved in terms of without it. they couldn't have been me as a person who underwent, received bursaries and all those things. So while I might not make 100% mark in terms of what they have done, obviously some people could have been speaking from a point of view as an example of what has achieved. But without any dance over things that have happened, then it becomes a problem in terms of people appreciating what has happened. And that is what we could say has been some of the gaps for the UPND. And because of lack of dancing over what they have done, then some people may say nothing has happened.
I'll ask our director to just run over this video of President Hakainde Hichilema and his trust message as we, look at the next question. In this recent video, the president suggests that Zambians are better off than they were 4 years ago. There is a clear disconnect between the official narrative and the cry, of the streets regarding food prices and inflation. Now, do Zambians believe that they are in a better position, or is the shadow of the current economy eclipsing the gains made, in other sectors?
When we were growing up, and I'll give this example, we never had everything in the house. Even President Hichilema himself, he has talked about how he started school, and that it wasn't all rosy. But I think there was a promise, which the parents maybe, there was a promise in terms of if you complete education, this is what you can achieve. And that's where we are in terms of if the UPND at this particular time thought they have achieved the best they could, then they couldn't have been the opposition. That's why we are talking about the Tonse Alliance also coming up with their manifesto. And there are other political parties which will come to promise. But if the people who are coming to promise are not going to promise better ways of doing things than the UPND, then it becomes a problem. But always what happens, even when you are a ruling party, there is always a time is it revising the strategy? Yes. For example, debt restructuring, the UPND we are talking about 94% having restructured. What is it if 100% is achieved? Those become the future promises if you are going to talk about the next 5 years. So if people are just hearing that this is what we have achieved in our 10-point plan, but after 5 years you don't revise those strategies, and you don't tell people that this is how these programs have benefited you, then it becomes a challenge in terms of going into the next election. But I'm happy, that is my opinion. The president admits that we are not there. We still have these challenges. Those challenges are the things that are supposed to be maybe explained, and also looking at the promise in the future. So those are the 10-point plan of the UPND. But because Zambia is a democracy, the opposition at this particular moment will be punching holes into we are going to create. Yes, we are going to create employment. Some people are going to say, in fact, in the opposition, they are going to say, create employment. Yes, you have created employment, but are these quality jobs? Are people getting the right salaries? That is on one point, number one. And if Zambians believe they are supposed to side with the people who are criticizing government, which means government hasn't done enough, and they would say even the president admits that he hasn't done enough. So what should happen is that as they evaluate, as we go into the campaign system, and as the media, as we look at the various manifestos, will be saying, okay, these are jobs which have been created, even if you are saying they are not quality jobs. This is a person who stayed for more than 10 years in the compound without receiving a salary. This is a teacher who was looking for a job for more than 15 years. So the comparison by the media will be helpful for the public to make an informed choice of politicians.
When you look at reduce inequality by growing the economy with a focus on lowering the cost of living, ensuring food security, and increasing support for the disadvantaged, how has the UPND fared on this particular point? And also would want you to marry it with the third one, educate and empower our population, especially the youth, by ensuring better access to education, supporting vocational training, and facilitating top-class college and university, education. So reduce inequality, educate and empower. How has the UPND fared on this front?
I think the cost of living is a thorn in the mind of the UPND, and people should admit that it hasn't been an easy road to travel in terms of the cost of living. Whether it's because of the calamities which have been on the way, which has met the UPND, people still would like to talk about the promises. If you are going to better our lives in terms of the cost of living, even if you say, when we came into power, there was COVID. When we came into power, there was a drought. When we came into power, all these things were with us, but we have managed to achieve some of the things that we have achieved. The central point will always be the cost of living is high.
When you look at the factors you mentioned, there was the drought, there's COVID, as that had affected the entire world when governments were changing in 2021. Of course, COVID started in 2019, but the after effects of that shock are still being felt even today. But also the drought, and the UPND has been saying, the UPND government, that this is the biggest drought the country has ever, been hit by. But the response to this, and also there's the war in Iran between, Israel, Iran, and the US.
First of all, it is Russia, Ukraine,
yes.
And then now it's Iran, where there is a problem, and you can't do without oil, gas, and all those things.
There have been sentiments that the UPND administration must not give excuses to say things are not looking to the levels they were supposed to be economically because of these factors. How critical are these things, such as the war, the droughts, as well as the COVID-19 after effects on a performance of an economy such as Zambia's?
First of all, what politicians should understand is it's no longer time for people for politicians to just promise and say, oh, this is going to be reduced. This is the way we are going to live. The best thing at this particular moment, and even when politicians, and I'm happy they met at Mlongoshi last Friday, they should first of all understand the prevailing environment so that when you make promises, they are achievable. Even if you don't achieve 100%, you may achieve maybe 70%. So the Zambia is not an isolated island. Zambia belongs to the global village. And economists talk about comparative advantage. So if we don't have oil and we are able to get oil from the Middle East, that has been happening. But when the countries are affected, where we get the major input in terms of production, it becomes a problem for us. Maybe this is a wake-up call, just like when there was a drought. A wake-up call for the UPND has been, let's invest in other sources of energy. Let's invest in solar energy. But even after now, we are having 24 hours of electricity. How many people are explaining that don't abandon solar energy? That's where the problem comes in, because what would happen is that we'll go to default settings if it happened again. So that's why I talked about there should be reforms in terms of you re-strategize when a certain environment actually hit you at a particular time. So in terms of energy, what the UPND cannot just start explaining that it's the Midwest. What strategies do they have, even when they are campaigning for another 5 years for people to believe in them? What is it that they have now to talk about? Well, this is not our problem, but this is what we can offer as a solution, to the problem. So all the last 5 years, the UPND have been in power. What is it that, because of the challenges that they have faced, if we are hit by another drought, what is it that they have done? If we are hit COVID, what is it that they have done? If there is a war in Iran where we get our oil, what is the alternative? Those are the things that make people believable if you are able to turn around the economy and start doing other things. But this, we are talking about the UPND because at the moment they are the ruling party. When we start talking about other political parties, the opposition, and we are talking about their manifesto, we are going to say, hey, and people are going to say, but what you are talking about, this is what they have already done, and this is what they intend to do. So when we start comparing the various manifestos of political parties, what's supposed to happen is that we should be issue-based and also ensure that people understand what they are voting for.
All right, let's quickly run through more of the contents of the 10-point plan. I know I'd also asked you to comment on the ease of the education, sector, where they said that the wish to educate and empower our population, especially the youth, by ensuring better access to education. In your preamble, you mentioned the free education, the school feeding program. I'm sure this is in line with.
Let me just comment on education.
All right, and then from there, we're going to get to electrify Zambia through better management of our, existing facilities, increased investment, diversifying our energy portfolio, managing the water resources, and reducing the lead time on key projects. But also we get to improved competitiveness. The rest of them are going to quickly run through. We have very limited time, but let's look at the education sector.
The UPND have talked about getting 2.5 million children going back to school, which is a commendable job. They have employed teachers. Now, from a writer's point of view, as a journalist, and I'm not a journalist who sits in offices. I've looked at the private education sector. While the government is getting pupils back to school, getting teachers, some of the teachers, and most of them, they have come from the private sector. I haven't heard at this particular moment the Minister of Education looking at it from a point of, can the private sector account for what they are teaching? If teachers are leaving to join the government service, then there should be a gap in the private sector. But what has happened is that the private sector still charges the same abnormal fees. If you are paying 5,000, you continue paying 5,000. And yet some of the children will come back home and tell you, but teacher Chani left. So while the UPND seem to be fixing the public schools and also trying to close the gap in terms of teacher-pupil ratio, what I would have loved is the UPND looking at the private sector in terms of teachers and pupils. Are they doing the right thing? I'm not saying the Minister of Education should have a heavy hand over the private sector. It's investment, it's business. But there should be accountability in terms of what is it that we are giving the pupils, and are we having the right teachers? Are the lessons and going on as they are expected to be? So a little bit of supervision in terms of the private sector.
When we look at, of course, you've touched the energy sector as well, and on just that note, just this morning on the education side, the Minister of Education announced recruitment that is going to be that is currently underway in the ministry, and they say they're going to recruit 2,000 people for the year 2026, but also 2,500 more teachers. So that's a 4,500 number added to the 42,000 earlier, plus the 4,000 that were mentioned, and this is in all sectors. When you look at job creation, and there is an argument that says, yes, the government may employ, but government must not be the biggest employer. The private sector is supposed to be the biggest employer. How do you think the UPND as an administration has fared with regards, creating an enabling environment? You just spoke of, teachers in the private sector that are leaving the private sector for a more attractive government job. Is the private sector environment conducive for growth in several, sectors?
The private sector, maybe the media is a better private sector than a lot of people say, when I work in government, then my job is secure. That has been the narrative. Instead of, even in the private sector, if the labor laws are sound, you employ more people, they pay tax because they receive. Then what would happen is that you wouldn't worry about the public sector in terms of if you are receiving taxes from the private sector, you are able to pay the teachers who are in the public sector. That's why I talk about the strengthening of the Ministry of Labor at this particular time when foreign investment is coming into the country. If the mines have been reopened, and government, because they look at the government structure. Investors don't come because they like you. They will come because they will look at the policies that the government is implementing. So in terms of the mines, if people are setting up all these things, you need a very good strengthened Ministry of Labor to look at labor laws. So for the UPND and the Minister of Education, the 2,000 that they are talking about are coming from somewhere. These are people who are in the private sector. They are going into government. So when I talk about close monitoring, you may say we are employing, but what are you leaving as a gap in terms of the private sector? Those are the things that I believe as we promise, as the people make promises in the next 5 years, that they are going to employ more teachers. They should be that you look back on the gap that you are creating in the private sector.
All right, let's look at some more points in the 10-point plan. And then on the other side, we're going to be getting to our inbox and reading some of the messages that you are sending us. And now, Mr. Chomba, improve competitiveness and make it easier to do business by cutting the red tape. Licenses, permits, delivery, timeframes, and improving trade and transport links. Cut government waste agriculture development, stable and consistent policies to be a partner of business for the long term, attracting investment and supporting the growth of the local business. A healthy nation, improve the healthcare delivery system through investment in infrastructure, improved nutrition, disease prevention, healthcare professionals, and community healthcare and access to medicines. The last point was good governance and the protection of the rule of law, rights and freedoms of all Zambians will be the foundation of our social economic development, operational autonomy to oversight institutions so that they operate professionally. This was the 10-point UPND plan, and we can start from the bottom going up, Mr. Chomba. When you look at the rule of law, how has the UPND performed, especially on several aspects to do with policies that are have they improved the social economic well-being of Mother Zambia?
In terms of good governance, in the clip, the president will talk about restoring the law and order. Yes, at that level, in terms of the president will talk about it. But it's up to the person in the market to compare how were we being treated before the UPND came into power and how are we being treated. The president has admitted that sometimes it's very difficult for people to be in one direction. And I'll tell you, wow, Kadaism has reduced, or the politicians who talk about it has ended. I am sad to say that there was a clip where some UPND are suspected of beating up a journalist. That doesn't give a good name to the UPND, because people will start remembering, but this is what used to happen, and it becomes a bad thing for a ruling party. But in terms of markets, I can say we see people wearing Chitenge material in terms of this person belongs to this political party, the other person belongs to a political party. So it's very difficult to eradicate. And like I said, these are not messages where people should leave the president to speak about. What is the chairman of security and all those things talking about? Even if the police, if we look at the police, we know the policeman person ratio is very wide. It doesn't meet the United Nations standard. But these are the things that the UPND have to explain. You wrote these things in the 10-point plan. How have you performed? And if you leave it to only people to talk about and you are not talking about it, it becomes a problem. Because another political party, and this is what people would say, you promised this, it's not happening. Then another political party will come with the same message and say, we'll do it this differently. Like this case, we are talking about Tonse. If Tonse, for example, is going to talk about, although I'm diverting, we are talking about UPND. They have said we are a pro-poor political party. You see? If people are looking at UPND as not being a pro-poor political party, they will look to Tonse or any other political party which is going to deliver the promises. The good governance issue. If people start seeing double standards being applied by the UPND, then it becomes a problem, because they will say, yes, this is what the president says, but what is happening is this. When a person, and this is a famous example, when an opposition person has been arrested, it becomes difficult in terms of securing bail and all those things. But one person from the ruling party, when it's time to be given bail, that happens. So what is supposed to happen is that members of the UPND, as they implement their manifesto, what they promised the people shouldn't be double-tongued in terms of this is what the president is saying and what is happening at the lower level is something different.
I'll end up with you, Mr. Chomba, on this front, and I'll try to compress my question so as to for us to get to the next segment. The UPND administration over months and years has been fingered to have not created an enabling political environment, citing that the political parties have not been allowed to mobilize and organize. But when you look at it from our lens as a media, also, it's one side of a coin which you can also question, because KBF and the Zambia Must Prosper have held a convention. They held it in Kitwe. There's the Tonse Alliance, the FDD have held their own convention. The PF have held several conventions in the same period. But also we did see the Tonse Alliance launching their manifesto. We have seen a number of events, the DP, the Harry Kalaba, led party have equally, Citizens First Party have equally held, their own, events. But also we did see a lot of criticism for Bill 7, especially when it came to creation of new constituencies. There was talk that the UPND had a plan to create more constituencies in their strongholds. But surprisingly to them, the Electoral Commission of Zambia announced 70 constituencies, which more or less were very evenly distributed across the 10 provinces of the country based on the numbers that they were sharing. Now, at this point, how does a Zambian that has been subjected to all these complaints by the opposition? Of course, right now, the position is different. A lot of the opposition members are giving kudos to the Electoral Commission of Zambia in how they conducted the delimitation exercise. But for the viewer, for the listener on radio, on TV, they've got somewhat a very difficult position, because they've been hearing so many messages, and it's difficult for them to know what is true and what can be trusted.
Politics is about perception and being proactive. Perception is you can have, for example, a 10-point plan where you tell people, hey, we have brought free education and all those things. But if people are able to listen to that message, what will happen is that you have created a perception that this is working. I'm just giving that example. I'll talk about political party mobilization. We are in a very different, changed environment. Digital space has been opened up. Somebody might not go and hold a rally at this particular moment for people to understand that you are campaigning. So what I would say is people should go back to 1996. I know many people have forgotten about the case of Mulundika versus the people in terms of freedom of assembly. I'm not saying, and hear me correctly, I'm not saying political parties should not hold rallies and all those things. I want to go a step beyond. I've heard political parties, we have not been allowed to mobilize and all those things. But the law is very clear. If you are stopped by a police officer to mobilize according to the freedom of assembly, the next step is to write to the Minister of Home Affairs. And this law wasn't written now. It was then when the MMD were in power. That's when, in fact, there was a ruling. If you are stopped, appeal to the Minister of Home Affairs. If the Home Affairs Minister does not give you a go-ahead, in fact, it's not a go-ahead, notify the police, because permits are no longer there. If police are dilly-dallying, write to the Minister of Home Affairs. If the Minister of Home Affairs is being difficult, you go to the High Court and say, you had a ruling that permits are no longer there. You notify. Why is it that we are being stopped? But because politics have entered into the way we do things, what will happen is that immediately maybe the police officers tell you we can't allow you to assemble, then people are going to go on social media and say this government, and they will point at the president as the first point of attack. This president is a dictator and all those things. So the process is not being followed. And I know when I say you go to the courts and all those things, somebody is going to say, no, these courts are compromised and all those things. That has been happening. But if you are going to follow the law, you would achieve more than simply complaining about certain things which people perceive as being very difficult.
Right.
But in terms of mobilizing and people getting across, at this particular time, we have got more than 60 television stations. Where people want to appear is just one of the channels. We are on over 5 channels. If you count to Crown TV, you are going to be given a better reception than. But people just say, no, we can only go to one station, then we are seen to be seen. We have got more than 200 radio stations. As long as the ethical guidelines of journalism are being followed, I think with the promise that this administration is not going to close any television station, any radio station, I think politicians should utilize various forms of media or platforms in terms of getting across their messages.
Right. Let's have a look at some messages in our inbox, and if time will allow, we'll pick a couple of phone calls as well. We have so many messages in our inbox. I don't think we'll read everything, but let's read what we can manage to read. Good afternoon, panel. I believe that a process that has started is better than one which may not even start. Please remember all the time to add your name and location when you send us these messages. We're grateful for that message. Let's look at another message from our inbox this afternoon on Conversations at 1. Right, this message reads, most politicians in Zambia do not tell the truth. They just label elections. Rather, they just lie before elections. After you vote for them, they change and forget the people. We just hope there will be no load shedding, high cost of living, high unemployment, corruption, etc. after the election, because every time there's elections, every time elections near, everything looks better. But after voting, things go worse as usual. This habit must stop. Otherwise, there will be zero trust in all politicians. DK from Chongwe. Thank you very much, DK from Chongwe. I don't know if you're calling us from Chongwe West or Chongwe East. Please let us know which constituency you are in. All right, let's look at another message now. Good afternoon. No. Once bitten, twice shy. That advert does not align with current situation. No one should align or compare himself to God. God took care of those people, led them with fire by night and cloud by day, fed them with manna by night, fed them with manna, and their clothes didn't wear out. Only Jesus is one with God. Right, that's an interesting analysis of the video that we are showing you. Let's have a look at another message. Right, so one says, good afternoon, panel. Good afternoon. Yes, I very much trust the hard-working UPND because the process is better than the results. Other parties are still at zero promises. Work well, EBZ in Livingstone. Thanks. All right, thank you very much, EBZ. Please tell us also which Livingstone, which which constituency in Livingstone are you? It's Maramba?
I don't know. It's yes, Maramba. There's Maramba, I think.
All right. Let's have a look at another, there's been so many changes recently. Good afternoon, panel. Yes, we remain united as Zambians. We go forward with the ruling party. Our children have been employed. I was paid my benefits in time after retirement. Mrs. Wamundila from Livingston. All right, thank you very much for that message. Okay. Good afternoon, Said and Sir George. Good afternoon. UPND are very lucky in that you are there to advise them, in particular, the achievements attained in the 5 years. This is what UPND would call Sonta. That video is too generic. It can be packaged item by item. I hope they're hearing. If not, they can as well hire Sir George RK for that message. Sir George, there's a job in waiting for you. Please, you have to go seek that contract. All right, let's look at this one. Good afternoon, Crown TV. Zambians should trust the UPND government because HH and the UPND mean well to the common people and to these selfish politicians. All right, please remember all the time to add your name and the location you are texting from. All right, let's read 2 more messages and then we get to phone calls. Inoman, the company president, all is vanity. Shop is following up from Buchi Kamitondo in Kitwe. Thank you very much for that message from Buchi Kamitondo in Kitwe. All right, political promise. Each political party from UNIP makes promises. Some are fulfilled in short term, others futuristic. If one doesn't trust the UPND process, then whose process? There are so many advisors for and against such that ordinary citizens follow sweet promises. Citizens must have intellectual capacity to know what's tenable. Illiteracy is dangerous. Popularity, charisma is mistaken for capable leadership. Sweet words for reality. I'm MK Chitambo of Kabwe. Thank you very much, MK Chitambo, for that message. All right, this is our final message before we get to the phone calls. So far, so good. The UPND and HH have performed extremely good for the first 5 years in power. Danny Banda from Mpika. Thank you very much, Mr. Banda, Danny, for that message. And right now we open the phone lines. We'll pick a couple of phone calls and then we get to the conclusion of this conversation. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Konje.
Good afternoon, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, Uncle Patrick. Calling from Copper Belt.
Uncle Patrick, we are grateful. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Great evening, my big man there. Mr. Chomba, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mwabomba fe wano bakaram.
Mkwaina vena babomba shani kukitwa.
Bana babala vene veramba. Bachomba.
Mkwai.
Thank you. Bachomba.
Mkwai.
Mwe bakuru ndetotera mwebo kusanga kwebaye efe mulero ndola sireboneka bwino sana. Naba UPND kani bari kwete amatwi bayo mfuye ko efe mulero ndola bakwate kwa abantu abakwe but bafwe ba president byabade byafengefe bati na bo marera bya mu bantu bayo kwati bari bafuyirisha ndabona kwati kingawa misha sana mabona ka because kule maneka kwati mikuri lack of information fese batachiwa UPND no president weke ebalesa ngokwebati ebalesiranda tebenka tekwesa ngo ababambe bali na bena tabalesimo okwebati umuntu wese batani finezi nezi shere ko fimbi ni finezi. I think uyolo bali kuti lwaba bwino and is a good part kwebati that's what abantu abali kwati limwe bachomba balera ndola abambe fyo balaba kweta amatu bamoba nkwati newe bakumpongwe isi. Good luck bachomba.
Thank you.
Mwefumu twatota. All right, please, you can call in as well and give us your comment. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mulonda. How is Ndola?
Ndola is okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Sir Chomba.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, the direct answer to the question there, should Zambians trust the UPND process? The direct answer for me is yes. I know we are running out of time, so I will not give the reasons, but we should realize that UPND is the only party that has brought the currency down to where below to where they found it when they came into power. I think they found it around the 22, 23 quarter per dollar. Now it's somewhere up 19. It's the only party. I don't think even Mr. Manawansa went below what MMD found it during the handover from UNIP. So yes, they should trust the UPND. There are several, in fact, many reasons why they should trust. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Malonda, for that contribution. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, thank you. How are you, sir? What is your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Livingston, boss.
All right, what is your name?
This is Mr. Hamidimo, from Livingston.
Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. I just want to contribute on one aspect of Kadarism and there's a story that Sir George Chomba tackled of the event which happened where the journalist attacked some European members attacked a journalist. What I may say, Mr. Chomba, is that even in the family, you can have 5 children. 4 of them, they are perfect. But the 5th one brings problems always to the family. And that doesn't mean that the head of the house of that family or that family is not a good family. So those pockets of violences, Mr. Chomba, I don't think that they can finish. They can still be there, but we are looking at the level. What is the level from the time PF was in government to date? Has it reduced or it has increased? It's a process, sir. So UPND can be trusted to everything that they have done. There is nothing matters about what UPND has done. They have brought the economy to where it's supposed to be. I understand that probably we have not actually touched the lives of people so much, but the impact has been felt. So I thought maybe on that one, we should be very aware that you cannot eradicate all the problems throughout. There should be a child. One child will be always giving you a problem in the house. Thank you so much, Mr. George Chomba, and the anchor there. May God bless you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, our final caller is Shikulu. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, thank you. And how are you?
We are very fine, thank you. Please go ahead.
I must admit you are looking very smart, the 2 of you.
Thank you, Shikulu. All right.
You see, I think what you are saying by Chomba Fishing, by UPND na babomba febwino, ubwafya bakwata ababutukira efifulo tabayishi b'emilimo yabo. Abeshi b'emilimo nga bararondolera abantu n'abantu nga balonfa. And then they are allowing, like, let me be very critical in my analysis. Buli abantu nga bamundubile n'oyo mwana wesu kuno kulwapula kalaba. Bali tuotunwa. But ibintu bali pama constituency. Kutina temwa abantu baisa kuno kubahati. As I'm talking to you in the kubahati, there is nothing to talk about. But she's so critical. Bamunduvile, I've been talking to my friends who are in Porokoso. There is nothing that he did. The time when he was minister for Northern Province, there is nothing that you can say you can remember about. But KBF valia. Avena mufulira. Kutu afyakanwa tapainefo bengachita. Bamunduvile, ba lawyer na buloya bali pona kuziali. He can't practice. So, but if you are kulandauka, apato alikwata in political independence. What we are looking for is economical independence. Abantu bali ibombera. That's one thing that I like about Akainde. I came to the village ukufumako kuma town kwebati. Nikala kumbwe fintu. Ndaibombera, ndailisha. Everybody fyabali kuno kumusha. Nanguli civil servant. Kuti walima kwa yangfika 1 hectare. Kasarare kuti kalelo fafi. For example, when I was working outside the country, kasarare kandi kalelo when I leave a driver. Uwa kusendela abana njama moto wo kumakudaba nukutwala kuna mibio kutwala kwa Angola. Kasarare kalelo fafi. That's what even you people, as smart as we are looking, mwali kwatoko mwafuma kuti mwalimisha kufya nka 1 hectare kasalere kuti kalero ofuafe. I think that's what I wanted to say. And then before I go, there is one thing bachombande milomba abayichi abalechita interview ababa rumenda. They are supposed to be abantu abayichi bapama history yabo. This is the time those people are supposed to sell themselves. So unpack them, like I said the other time. Nomba mulepela abayichi abashayichi bana history yangu fimo. Ngawaroresha question ile pisha journalist. Ndo mfubulan. I'm not a journalist, but I can ask very good questions to these people you interview. Let me, I'm told I'm the last caller.
Yes, Chikulu, you are the last caller. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nato Hotel.
All right. All right. So that was Shikulu, and we're grateful to all the callers. The phone is still ringing. So many calls, this afternoon. Unfortunately, there's no much democracy in broadcasting. Our time is up. Thank you so much to everybody that was following us online as well. Petronella Mwini, I could see Charity there. I saw a number of people as well in that conversation. Jean Mwinga as well there on the social media. We're grateful to everyone from those in Livingston. Is it Maramba?
Yes.
Maramba constituency, and so many other constituencies that are represented, even in Chongwe. Don't know if it's Chongwe West or East, but thank you very much to everyone that has managed to contribute this afternoon, and to you that did not manage. Let's have the conversation again tomorrow at 13 hours. Mr. Chomba, I'm grateful to you for having been with us, and we are grateful for all the time for your wealth of knowledge. And like the other text message read, there's an opportunity.
We have tackled UPND today.
Yes.
But we need to talk about now what the opposition, Tonsi Alliance manifesto is out. Another political party will have to give us their manifesto. Then we talk about it. We compare. Then people can have an informed choice.
There's a job that has been advertised for you. Are you going to take it?
I love my journalism.
All right. From us here in studio, we're grateful to you and good afternoon.